I'm calling the meeting to order. Pursuant to New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the Board Office, the schools, and on Cable Vision Channel 118 and Verizon Fios Channel 24, and by filing such notice with the Township Clerk. The meeting was scheduled for Thursday, April 28, 2022. The board will take formal action on payment of bills and other agenda items. Joseph?
Thank you, Mr. Weber. The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that that act of recording does not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered a private recording of the individual and no manner represents the official record of the board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Thank you, Joe. Roll call.
Ms. Burns?
Here.
Ms. Callie?
Here.
Mr. Giordano? Ms. Lent?
Here.
Mr. Marquetta?
Here.
Mr. Slade?
Here.
Mr. Silikowski?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Quorum exists.
Right. Before we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to ask everybody to remain standing afterwards so we can have a moment of silence for two former employees who have passed.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In memoriam, move the board acknowledge the death of Janine Phillips, retired AP Secretary, and Patricia Maeda Britton, retired AP Secretary, and express its deepest sympathy to their family and friends. Thank you. I'll accept a motion for the approval of the minutes.
Lent will move it.
Is there a second?
Silikowski was, go ahead. Silikowski was second.
At this point, I'm going to remove. Yeah, we're going to move all three of them at once unless somebody wants to separate something. Does anyone have any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. Roll call.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Marquetta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
All right. On recognition, we have item 1. Is there a motion to approve? What's that?
Callie will move. Lent will second.
Any discussion?
At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Hooker to carry this motion for recognition. We are recognizing some of the building service permanent substitutes that have been in our schools throughout the pandemic. The reason we are recognizing them is because of the service they provided and doing so valiantly. They have modeled for other substitutes that we hope to have in the district what it means to come into the classroom under very difficult situations and provide a service of learning. This year, obviously, was, in the past few years, was even more difficult. We had many of our very dedicated professional service teaching providers that had to take care of their own personal illnesses during the pandemic or family members. you have to keep in mind, over the past 2 years, we had record numbers of absences, and for the first time, probably in the history of the school district, teachers working remotely from home while their students were in the classroom. They were allowed to work remotely from home to take care of personal illness again, and to take care of their own family members. That has not happened before, and the only reason why that could happen is that we had reliable professionals that would step in and be in the classroom with the children while the teacher worked remotely from beyond the computer at home. So it was a very difficult time for all. We only made it because of the commitment of our own staff here in Old Bridge and those who helped us out through this difficult time. Dr. Hoker?
Thank you, Mr. Cittadino. You said that beautifully. I would like to call our honorees up. I'm going to call them one at a time, but I would also like to recognize that Lillian Fiore, our Kelly Services account manager, is here with us. So our first honoree is Miss Dana Jenkins. Miss Lowry, do you want to come up with her? So we have a few words that were written about each of our honorees, and this came directly from the administrator and the staff who nominated you. Dana Jenkins interacts beautifully with all the children at Shiraz School. Dana approaches every assignment with a smile, a calm, confident demeanor. Students and staff adore working with her and appreciate her reliability and commitment. Thank you. Mrs. Robin Margris. Robin Margris has served in multiple capacities within McDivitt School and our school district. She has served our students both in the classroom and online and can be relied upon to follow our district curriculum, assist with benchmark assessments, and to prepare lesson plans. Robin continually goes above and beyond to support our students and enhance instruction. Thank you. Mr. Gary Cummings. Mr. Cummings has made it a priority to connect with students every opportunity he can. Mr. Cummings has changed his career path to make a difference in lives of others, and his effort has a positive impact on the students and staff at Carl Sandburg Middle School daily. His commitment and flexibility are strengths and appreciated by the staff and students. Thank you. Mr. Luigi Pepe. Mr. Pepe is new to the education world. His calm demeanor and ability to naturally adjust and support the teachers and students is impressive. Mr. Pepe is assigned to various classrooms, and in each of his assignments, he takes initiative with a smile and a positive attitude. He is always willing to help and is currently pursuing alternative route because he wants to continue his career making a difference in the lives of children. Thank you. Mrs. Patty Brooks. Mrs. Patty Brooks gives 110% of herself each day at Southwood School. She is committed to doing whatever it takes to support every child. She accepts every assignment, pre-K through 5, and can be found assisting in the lunchroom as well as on bus duty. She takes the time to learn the curriculum and knows many of the students by name. Mrs. Brooks has made personal donations to support the Makerspace Lab as well as STEM and science-oriented initiatives. Thank you. Ms. Daryl Adesso. Ms. Adesso is super energetic, optimistic, and flexible. She has a strong work ethic and has developed positive relationships with students and staff. Her dedication and commitment are very much appreciated at Madison Park. Parker Dewey. Mr. Parker Dewey takes on any challenge and is kind and flexible. Parker has taken a special interest in supporting the Madison Park Library and has been instrumental in assisting with operating the space and making resources available to students and staff. Thank you. Miss Nancy Lowe. Miss Nancy Lowe was hired by unique circumstances as she applied for a noon hour supervisor position, and we immediately recognized her skill set, her level of education, and qualifications to serve as a building permanent substitute. Mrs. Lowe is currently assisting our World Language Department with providing our students access to the Chinese language and culture in our grades K through 5 classrooms. She operates at the highest level and provides our students access to culturally authentic materials. Thank you. Christina Helfmann. Christina Helfmann is a longtime Old Bridge employee who continues to demonstrate her love for our Old Bridge students and our community. She's come out of retirement to continue to serve the students at Salk School, and we appreciate and thank you. I want to personally thank each of you for working with our students and supporting our staff this year under very challenging circumstances. I just want to point out that these staff members come to work Monday through Friday. Some days they come into a building and we say, I'm sorry, we need you somewhere else. Please travel across the district because that building has a more significant need, and they do it with a smile on their face. I appreciate your flexibility and your willingness to take on all of the challenges that we have put in front of you, and thank you very much for serving Old Bridge.
Roll call.
I just want to make sure that all of our honorees stop by with Lillian. You have a little swag bag here.
So the roll call, I've been requested to do the roll call for recognition. Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta,
Yes.
Mr. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
And any board
Resolution 1
members,
passes.
any board members who care to compliment the people while they're here, feel free to do so. If you'd like to address the recognized people, have at it.
Yes, I would like to recognize all of the substitutes that came in today, and we really appreciate the work that you're doing for our district. Thank you.
I second that emotion, and given the hard year it's been for everybody, the year and a half or so, they've made a significant contribution to our ability to function. Thank you.
At this point, we're going to have a superintendent's report. Mr. Domino is going to lead us through that process as he has a presentation for the board that I think the board will find fitting.
Good evening. I'm here today to discuss naming our athletic football field press box after the great Ron Mazzola. So who is Ron Mazzola? Ron's a lifelong resident at Old Bridge. He attended Old Bridge Public Schools and graduated from Madison Central in 1978. As a young adult, he volunteered his time in Old Bridge youth sports as a coach and a board member. In the 1990s, Ron became involved in Old Bridge High School football as the game announcer. He announced Friday night footballs every Friday night until his passing. Ron was also an active part of the GMC wrestling and gymnastics. Through his business, Ron made hundreds of plaques, banners, and T-shirts for countless athletes. The voice of Old Bridge football. Ron started announcing Old Bridge football games in 1994. Before his very first Old Bridge High School football game, Ron stayed up for 2 days and painted the end zone in a purple and white checkerboard pattern. On the right side of the PowerPoint, you can see the end zone painted there. Ron was voted GMC Best Public Address Announcer. He was also elected to the Old Bridge High School Wall of Fame for his involvement in our schools. Ron was all about the community. Ron was always willing to help celebrate our students. Through his company, he provided trophies for games, T-shirts for causes, and promoted fundraisers throughout the community. Just a thank you to Ron. We have been so lucky to have Ron Mazzola in our lives. He dedicated his life's work to our schools and communities. He's been a coach, mentor, director, and most importantly, a volunteer who has given thousands upon thousands of hours of more than just manpower. He's given his skills, talent, passion, and literally everything he's had to offer. The best way to thank Ron Mazzola for all he has done for this community is to name his second home, the press box, after him. My only regret is that I didn't ask for this sooner. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And I will confess that when Dan and I think Principal Sasso had conversations about the Bob DeMarco Stadium being named, we had the same thought that it's only fitting that we also name the press box after Ron Mazzola, and I regret that too, that, we didn't know how much time we had with Ron, and we didn't do it while he was with us, because that was the next step. We had plans to name it after him, so he could see it and sit there proudly within a box named after himself. So at the pleasure of the board, I would like the support of the board. It's not at this point a binding action, but at least a straw poll of the board, giving us the authority to do so, and would have that probably in place by the September beginning of the football season. Okay. So around Thursday, September 1st, have an unveiling of that and a way to kick off the football season. So, Mr. Marin, maybe if you can lead us in a straw poll, and if any board members want to have a discussion or have any input on that, they can do so as they do the straw poll.
Okay, so this is a straw poll for the naming of the booth for Mr. Mazzola. Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Can we say something? Okay. First of all, absolutely yes. And I just wanted to add, Ron Mazzola was the go-to guy for this entire town. If there was something that you needed and he personally couldn't get it for you, he knew somebody who could get it for you. Those of you up here, there might only be one or two. He made our Board of Ed shirts when I was president, and I had the cockamamie idea of saying, hey, we should have shirts so people know who we are. Nobody wears them, but that's good. He even made my daughter's Sweet 16 shirts, and he was such a lovely guy. Gave the best hugs, too. So, anyway, I think this is a great idea.
So, Ms. Callie, is that a yes?
Let me think. Yes.
Ms. Lent?
Absolutely.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski?
Yes,
Mr.
I
Weber?
knew him personally, yes.
And in the early 1980s, when my boys started playing in the basketball league, and I had interaction with him because I was heavily involved in sports and other leagues, He was a very unique guy, and he did a tremendous amount for the community, and I'm sure he will not be replaced for a long, long time.
So your vote is also a yes? That means
Absolutely.
the straw poll is a yes, passes.
Thank you to the board, and thank you to the public. Thank you to Mr. Domino. I'll just tell you a story. I shared it with the reporter when he asked me, but it wasn't shared publicly. I thought it's a great, typical Ron story, how he steps in. So I was a principal at Salk School, probably my first or second year there, and I was working with Mr. McHugh and Mr. Rico, and we had a student who wouldn't stay in class. He was always wanting to walk out of class, walk around the hallways, and one day I found him just staring at the trophy case and talking about how much he liked trophies. So I said, "Did you hear about the attendance trophy?" And he said, "No, I didn't know there was attendance trophies." Well, we do have that. We have an attendance trophy, and you have to be in class every day, and we tally it, and you get the award. And he goes, "Can I win?" I said, yeah, "There's a kid named P.J. Chaplinsky, a name I made up, and he's in first place right now. But, you know, if you start today, you never know." So he stayed in class every day, and he'd come up to one of us and say, "Am I in the lead yet?" And we said, "Almost, you're almost there." And he stayed in class, and when Mr. Mazzola heard about that, he said, "Can I give you a trophy?" And on the last day of school, he presented us with the largest trophy I've ever seen. And we went over to Camp Daisy, where the student was now spending a summer, and presented him with the largest attendance trophy ever made. It's the first and only attendance trophy, but that's the kind of guy Ron Mazzola was. So thank you, everyone.
Item 16,
Can I just add
Go
a few
ahead,
things
Dave.
under Superintendent? So I just, a few things I just want to state or recognize for everyone. We're going to have a Red Cross blood drive on May 4th, 1 to 6 p.m. at Carl Sandburg Middle School in the small gym. You can see Sandburg's website for registration info. I donate blood as often as possible. Usually it's in the name of one of our staff members who passed. There's a good friend of mine. And just being registered, I get a text message on a weekly basis talking about right now how bad the blood situation is. So it's important that if you are willing to donate blood, that you do so, and this is one opportunity for you to do that. Another great thing happening, you'll see it tonight, our memorial students are in the back. They're doing their Ukraine buttons. And I know the staff that are involved are doing a great job with that, but they would always say it's about the students and how hard they're working. I think as of today, they're at $13,000. Their goal initially was to raise about $100 to donate to Ukraine, and I know they just submitted information out to get greater recognition to help the people of Ukraine. So if you can take part in that, please do so. Can't go much further without indoor percussion recognition. We are very proud to have the Dayton World Championship silver medalists right here in Old Bridge, our indoor percussion program. Congratulations to them. Have a round of applause for them. The name of the program this year was Pass the Torch, and I said to them that program has been carrying the torch for years. They've been recognized in Hawaii, in our music program, and in France. Around the world, they are recognized for their amazing accomplishments under the leadership of Ms. Thatcher. And tonight was the first meeting of the Old Bridge Ed Foundation in many years. And I want to thank those members of the Ed Foundation to getting that together. If you don't know what that is, the Old Bridge Ed Foundation is made up of volunteers from within the district and the parent, from community. So if you're looking for something to get involved in, you can reach out to myself, and I will direct you towards who can help you get involved. And what the foundation does is provide grants for teachers in the classroom. So if there's something that they need for their class but doesn't fit within the budget, or it's something that falls just outside the within the curriculum, but they think it'll support the class, they can apply through the Ed Foundation and get these meaningful grants. So I'm very proud that Old Bridge is again coming together and putting this foundation together. So thank you very much, everyone. That concludes my superintendent's report on progress towards goals.
16, curriculum and professional development. items 1 through
Mi-
7.
Mr. Weber,
To do the,
hearing of the residents or special committee reports?
I missed the page?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
special committee reports. both
Yes.
committees.
Any special committee reports?
No, we already had one last month for curriculum, but we'll be setting up a curriculum meeting when I sit down with the administration and come up with a date.
Hang on a
Thank you.
second.
Mr. Weber, while we're discussing committee reports, I wanted to bring something up. I just thought it was fitting under that particular heading. I've spoken to quite a few people in the community, and Ms. Lent and I had a long conversation, and Mr. Weber, you and I had a long conversation after the last meeting, and I would like to bring before the board the idea of the board having their own DEI committee, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. I think it's fitting for the board to have their own committee.
I think
And-
that discussion should take place when we get to new business. Mrs. Callie?
Well, I know there was, actually, I'm not sure because it's so crowded in here, that there were a couple of people who said that they were going to come to the meeting because they wanted to speak on it. So I thought if I brought it up under committee reports and anybody had anything to say regarding it, if we wait until the end for old business or new business, there's no opportunity for the public to speak.
There is an opportunity to speak on any matter at the end of the meeting, is there not?
That's before we do old business and new business.
Yeah, well, they can speak on any item then before we do new business and old business. That'll satisfy your thought.
Right, but if I hadn't brought it up, they wouldn't know about it. So if I waited until old business and new business, that's after the second hearing of the residents. So, I mean, I'll stop talking about it, and they can talk about it.
Are there anything else, committee?
Committee related? You want to
I'm
take that?
sorry?
You want to take that? I think Mrs. Lent has something committee related.
Moving along, I will give the report on the Long Range Planning Committee. We had a meeting, and as is part of our goals and objectives, which we have in place now, under strategic planning, it says for us, and this is the carryover goal that's been in place for quite a while, initiate and implement a strategic planning process that will guide the district for the next 3 to 5 years, focusing on addressing facility issues. Toward that end, we have gone out for bid as a result of that meeting to get the demographics done, and the demographics will be the population growth, the anticipated housing growth, and the demands on our services over the next 3 to 5 years. The state limits you only to 5 years on the anything that you go out for a referendum for, so it does take a bit of a time. And as well, it also, one of our other goals and objectives currently in place is to continue to evaluate options to improve financial reserves due to significant decrease in state aid, and continue efforts to educate our shareholders on the district's financial due to the significant reduction in state. There is going to be a choice from the State of New Jersey School Board Association as to which of their plans that we choose to pick. There are two. Do you want to, you got the information in an email, I believe, on Tuesday?
I forwarded to all the board members the proposal for the strategic plan options that New Jersey School Boards provides to the school district. So it's up to the
Has
board
everybody had a
to...
chance to read that?
That looked like the same plan that we discussed in October at the Strategic Planning Committee, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
correct,
yes.
except that they had the variation on it. So, yeah,
Are there different variations on the one? No? Okay.
No.
It's the
It's the
same
same
plan,
one.
same
Okay.
plans.
Okay.
We just have to make the selection which option we want.
Right, I think at that committee meeting, it was discussed that we would probably be going with a hybrid because none of the three kind of fit into our box. But then, of course, and then after that, it was decided to wait until January when the new board members were here. But there was some legwork done.
I just need to know which plan to advise school boards that the board is selecting.
Is there someone who wants to make a motion to pick one of the two, and we'll take a poll? A vote? I'll make a motion to move the larger plan, the more comprehensive one. Yeah. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? And how many votes are required?
I'm not a voting member of the board, but it would seem to me that maybe you should have a strategic planning meeting to discuss the options, and then come out of the meeting with a recommendation.
For the benefit of the board members, the new board members who weren't here and the returning board member, maybe you can have our representative come and present again. I know you were on the strategic, I don't know whether or not you were at that committee meeting, but you were on the strategic. Right. So if, for the benefit of the 3 board members that weren't there or didn't have the opportunity.
So the process can be undertaken, because it is a lengthy process, and the sooner we get started, the sooner we'll finish. So I withdraw my motion. Are there any other committee reports? Okay. We'll open the meeting to hearing of residents on agenda items only. Seeing no hands, I will close the public portion. And now move on to curriculum professional development, items 1 through 7. Is there a motion?
Lent will move it.
Is there a second?
Callie will second.
Is there any discussion on items 1 through 7? Hearing none. Roll call, Joseph.
Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 7 pass.
Right. We'll open finance, items 1 through 14. I'll move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 14 pass.
Athletics, Roman numeral 18, items A through... What number?
1 and 2. That's
Yeah.
huge.
1 and 2. I'll accept the motion.
Lent will move it.
Is there a second?
Burns will second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Mr. Marqueta?
No.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski?
No.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
The vote is 4 to 2. Both motions pass.
Okay. Item 21, non-certificated personnel other. Items 1 through 1 through 8.
Separating 1 and 2 for discussion.
All right. Any other discussion? No, I thought we had a motion. All right. All right, we need a motion for items 1 through 8, separating item 1. Discussion.
Lent will move it.
Callie will second.
Thank you. Any, all right, item number 1, discussion.
Okay, discussion. Yes, we have, this agenda, we have 7 people that are retiring. Okay, move the board, approve the retirement of the following people that work for our district in the past. Okay. Lorraine Grimaldi, Memorial, Para, Professional Aid, 22 years. Deborah Parodi, Southwood, 24 years. Phaedrew McAllen, Memorial, grade 4, 28 years. Carolyn Regolia, Carl Sandburg Middle School, Mathematics, 22 years. Michelle Reardon, Carl Sandburg Middle School, Guidance, 25 years. Margaret Torrey, noon hour supervisor. And Carol Dolan, noon hour supervisor. We have a total of 121 years. We really appreciate your service. Thank you.
Any other discussion for anyone else? Hearing none, move items 2 through 8.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta,
Yes.
Mr. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 8 pass.
How many items, Chris? 1 through 43. All right. Certificated personnel, items 22, and it is 1 through 43. Is there a motion? I'll move it. Is there a second?
Lent will second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta,
Yes.
Mr. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 43 pass.
Non-certificated personnel transportation, items 1 and 2.
I'll move it.
Weber will second. Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta,
Yes.
Mr. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 and 2 pass.
Transportation, items 1 through 14. I'll accept the motion. I'll move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Weber, there's a duplication in the resolution. Number 4 should be administratively removed, so it's actually going to be 1 through 13. Number 1 and number 4 are duplicates, so we're just
Okay.
removing number 4.
All right. It's amended, which is items 1 through 13 only at this point? Go ahead. All right.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta,
Yes.
Mr. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 13 pass.
Supplies, equipment, and services, items 1 through 29. I'll move it. Is there a second?
Lent will second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Mr. Marqueta,
Yes.
Mr. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 29 passed.
Move the board miscellaneous, which is Roman numeral 26, items 1 through 6. Is there a motion to approve?
Burns will move.
Yes, there's a correction over here,
All right.
Mr. Weber. On the curriculum committee, I believe Jay Slade was there.
We don't have a second, we have a second yet?
Go ahead.
We don't have a second yet. Matt?
Lentul, second.
Thank you, Lisa. Go ahead, Matthew.
Yes, Jay Slade was at the curriculum meeting, and they left him off, I guess. I guess we can add this, right?
We will add his name,
Thank you.
yes. Thank you, Mr. Solakowski.
John mentioned that the Freeman conferences are going to be held in this room.
Yes. And we got to do a roll call. Yes, we did a roll call, right?
We're still in discussion.
Okay. All right. Is there any discussion on miscellaneous? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solakowski?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 6 passed.
And just as a point of information, any meetings that are going to be held between now and September will be held in this room. We will not be moving to the administrative room. So any agenda meetings that take place in August will be held in this room, just for your knowledge. Item number 27, Board Secretary and Board Business. Items 1 through 13. I'll move it. Is there a second?
Burns will second.
Discussion?
Separating number 13 for voting purposes.
None? Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call on items 1 through 12.
Mr. Solakowski?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes?
Resolutions 1 through 12 pass.
Okay. Item 13, discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Solakowski?
Abstain.
Ms. Burns?
I guess I should have clarified first. Can I offer a discussion now, or? We're voting on you. I wouldn't want to put somebody in a position that they wouldn't want. It's just so we're clarified, pursuant to enact legislation, move the Old Bridge Township Board of Education, appoint Matthew Solakowski to the Representative Assembly, correct?
Yes.
Yes, do you want that position?
That's why I'm there, yes.
Okay, you abstained, I just want to make sure you wanted it.
I
Oh, okay.
abstained from the vote because my name is on there.
But you can still vote because you don't get financial gain from it.
You're absolutely right, okay.
You can abstain if you choose to. You can vote if you choose to.
Yeah,
And if you
but I'm
voted-
abstaining.
and if you
Then I'll-
voted no?
I'll vote yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Was that a yes? Ms. Lent?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Resolution 13 passes.
Okay, I will now open the hearing of residents on any school district item.
Ryan Sobin from the OBA. I'd just like to remind the board that your current strategic plan ends at the end of the school year. So no matter what, you'll basically go into next school year without a strategic plan. I don't know if anybody can read this, but this was a flyer that was posted during the most recent vote for the Board of Ed. We're feeling spooked by the current Board of Ed because they have no long-term planning, no parental input on committees. Yet that's what's going to happen now. At the last meeting, there was one plan put forth, one plan, which was to close 2 elementary schools. It seemed like the committee was dumbfounded by this. No one was aware that that was going to be presented, and this seems like quite the reversal. I hope the process moves forward with community input, including the parents, and a demographer study, and that was put forth by the committee as a recommendation that would be on this agenda. So I'm hoping for the best. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. Chris Lenegro, Vice President, Old Bridge Education Association. I would like to know if there was any comment from administration or the board on the closing of the Planetarium program in district. For the past 50 years plus, our district has been unique in that it has been home to not just one but two planetariums. This program has a proven value for the academic enrichment of our students. With the Planetarium, we have seen increasing engagement, including academic enthusiasm. The programs provide the Planetarium that have a direct correlation to STEM and have helped to address learning loss and improve assignment completion rates among K-8 students. In addition, the Planetarium has had strong community support as well as critical support from at least one current board member when the program, its funding and significance, were last an issue before the 2013 and 14 budget. While we understand the district is faced with tough budgetary decisions, we believe that the board and administration should take an opportunity to view the Planetarium as a potential source of income rather than an expense that can be cut. By producing income, the facility could be self-supporting, and the taxpayers' existing investment in the facility and its equipment over many decades would not be wasted. Abandoning this program is a loss for the district on many levels. Most importantly, it's a loss to our students. On a personal note regarding this issue, I can assure you that the importance and effectiveness of the Planetarium program cannot be overemphasized. As a product of Old Bridge Schools and someone who has maintained very close ties with so many who grew up here, attending amazing programs by people like Mr. Evan Jenkins, Fran DeCebus, Rich Layton, and most recently, Nick Andriacci back over here. Everything that we knew about the universe around us, space, astronomy, constellations, was learned in those planetariums. We attended schools named after astronauts, Alan B. Shepard for me, and couldn't wait to sit in those seats when the lights of the Browntown Shopping Center were lowered and the amazing sights appeared before us, things we'd never seen before, opening up a new world far beyond the one that we lived in. It gave us not just a glimpse into space, but it opened up our eyes to all that was possible and all that was out there for us to explore. These experiences were invaluable and irreplaceable, even with the technology that we have at our fingertips these days. If we want students who are enlightened, inspired, informed, and ready to shoot for the stars, we ask that you please consider the value of the Planetarium program rather than to cut it based on a possible cost. Thank you for your time.
Need glasses. Sorry. I don't know, right? Good evening, everybody. First, hello to the board, Old Bridge Board of Education members. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your service and your work you do for the school system to put our children in a position to have the best education possible in a safe and healthy learning environment. There are many challenges and hurdles and obstacles that this board faces throughout the school year, so I want to thank you again for your service. On March 23rd, 2022, I spoke to the board about racial slurs that students have been using on the bus that my daughter has been riding since her middle school years up until this current school year. I spoke of how my daughter's mental and emotional health was greatly and still is affected, resulting in her losing interest in school and not feeling safe on the bus or in school, which contributed to her missing numerous days. I stated that we had emailed her teachers on November the 12th, 2021, sharing our concerns about how our daughter had lost interest, and we were asking for their help. This letter aims to follow up to see what measures the board has implemented as either individuals or collective group to protect my daughter and other students from this harassment. If so, what additional measures, other than the camera on the bus that Mr. Cittadino had installed, thank you, has the board implemented? What are the board's plans if no further actions have been initiated? I will want to reiterate my request that I believe could help the board provide our children with a safe and healthy educational experience while attending school in Old Bridge District. Install cameras on all buses transporting students in the Old Bridge School District to include buses contracted through a third-party vendor. Additionally, ensure that future contracts with third-party vendors require cameras. Clarify and communicate plans for more support and assistance for students that are victims of racial bias, harassment, and bullying, to include culturally responsive counseling and academic support. Develop and communicate plans for increased, consistent, and comprehensive anti-bias training for all staff to improve methods in addressing racial bias, harassment, and bullying. Provide ongoing training for the implementation of restorative practices that align with the incident, not just a general one-size-fits-all restorative practice measure. Create accountability measures to ensure implementation. Communicate a transparent investigating process to include how people are involved in the HIB reporting and investigation. Compliance with the entirety of the title NJSA 18A, 37. Implement a process that will allow parents that are willing to come together to participate in reaching a solution. Additionally, I would like to thank Mr. Cittadino and the two board members, Jill DeCarlo and Jill Cali, for your public apology, also for reaching out to me after the meeting to express their disappointment in the treatment my daughter received. They also communicated a willingness to work together to address this issue, which I greatly appreciate and look forward to helping in any way I can. So I want to thank you guys for that. And so I asked that board, you know, I brought that last month. I don't know if you guys talked about it in any of your meetings, but it's a very important issue to me. I'm sure to other parents in here as well. You know, how can we better address this issue and protect our children? You know, I don't know, maybe some of these things are already implemented. If so, to what extent? Maybe we can review. I think the idea about having a DE&I committee could be a definitely another stepping stone to helping to achieve that goal, right? So I know it's not an easy fix, but it's an important issue, you know, and I know my daughter's not the only one to experience this. I'm hearing from different parents how their kids experience things similar along that nature. So, so I come to the committee. Again, I'm willing to help out any way I can. I have reached out to the NAACP. I got the Black Community Watch Line, and you know, helping me. And we all would like to work together in collaboration with this board to come up with some solutions, right? I'm not here to cause trouble. I won't try to be part of the solution, not the problem, right? So, congratulations. Congratulations to this, to the substitute teachers. Thank you for your service. That's all I got.
HIB program is the superintendent.
Excuse me?
The administrator for the HIB program is the superintendent. Have you had any contact with him in between the last time you were here and now?
No, I have not.
So you know, you'd have to ask Mr. Cittadino what he has done in between.
Okay. Well, we can have the conversation now. We can have it later. Either one, it doesn't matter.
Well, usually I listen to all the public speakers, then I address their concerns.
Good.
But thank you. And I think your interest in having a DEI committee for this board is very good. Thank you.
That wasn't my idea.
But your interest, you just.
Of course, I'm interested in a lot of things.
Well, I hope the interest comes to reality. That would be nice. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Gina. I'm a parent of 2 kids in the district. Does anyone care to explain why we're teaching children for the upcoming school year, 22-23, wildly inappropriate sexual content and not trigonometry or calculus in 2nd grade? We followed science for 2 years, but not developmental science that explains that little ones cannot understand the material in question. We can accept that there's academic benchmarks for learning based upon age and development, but a topic that is rooted in hormonal and biological imperatives, we are just going to throw at children that will not know or be able to necessarily process it at their developmental level. I can't imagine in good conscience teaching this. Is there ever a point where someone's morality trumps their comfort? I have some questions about the upcoming lessons for the 22-23 school year. What will you tell my kid how their behavior is limited because they are a boy or a girl? What is the definition of genitals that will be used in 2nd grade classrooms? Will there be visual aids, and if so, can parents have access to such material beforehand? How are you going to introduce the concept of physical and sexual abuse to the classroom? I am curious on all materials and books that will be used to cover these standards. On the subject of materials, the website Amaze should be blocked on all Chromebooks. It is highly inappropriate for lower grade levels. Another problem with these standards is that they tend to take parents out of the picture. The standards want your child to find trusted adults. However, parents are not specified on that list. I realize family includes parents. However, they need to specify parents first, since we are still our children's primary caregiver in most cases, and this is not the role of all family members. Finally, the largest problem with the standards is the gender identity theory that is now considered science in public schools. The standards on difference between sexual intercourse and human reproduction, and explaining that there are alternative ways pregnancy can occur, like IVF and surrogacy, are under the same idea of gender identity. They want to make it clear that a person with a uterus has a baby, not a mother. Cue in the term birthing person. The first step was to take your first grader and give them a lesson on gender identity. The second step is to provide your fifth grader with a list of alternative genders that they can choose from, just in case they don't really feel like they fit those gender stereotypes that they have been learning about for the past 5 years. Let's not forget, some kids in high school think they're a cat, wears a collar, and hisses at people in hallways. If you have no clue what I'm talking about, look into a furry. If you find the correct information, you'll be mortified, and this is happening in our schools. There should be a dress code, maybe. Well, there is a dress code for hats and hoods and the like, but apparently you could wear a tail and ears, which is from an origin of adult fetish, by the way, and it's okay. Last, the curriculum should be opt-in, not opt-out. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Krista Fisher, and I'm writing just on behalf of, sorry, I was actually the wrong speech for another meeting. I have to go to after this. I'm actually writing in regards to something that was stated in the last meeting. A father who had said that a minority of people were affecting a majority, and then said that faith is being attacked by having to learn acceptance of other people. This is a public school system. Not everyone is religious or follows his religion. And the argument of innocence being taken away, these people are purposely sexualizing children needlessly by comparing an individual preference into something sexually perverse. We serve burgers in our schools and have been for little consideration for people with Hindu beliefs. They serve pork in cafeterias. In the wintertime when it's dark and the school is still open for after-school programs on a Friday during Sabbath, still open. We serve lunch during Ramadan. All that is to say that although we should respect people's individual faiths as much as we can, we don't let it dictate our curriculums, which are non-secular. For him to say that his faith was under attack is just another national talking point boogeyman that's out there. Religion is no place for school, although we should respect others' religions. From what I've gathered from friends who are teachers, the new curriculum, which is a hot topic, could benefit children in learning about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, as far as adults not having the right to touch them. Younger children could be intimidated to say no to adults. They feel inferior to adults. This could teach them that you could say no, and that's what's private is private and should not be touched. Someone had mentioned that their parents can teach them these things, but sadly, in most cases of sexual abuse, a family member is at fault. And acceptance was another issue, another topic. I think that in a world filled with so much turmoil and so much hate, that when two people love each other, that's a beautiful thing. We shouldn't be, teaching kids to bully people because their parents have two mothers or two fathers. It's teaching, sorry, I lost my spot. I have a lot of stuff taped here, I'm sorry. Though these parents have the right to their opinions, it doesn't necessarily mean that their opinions are decent ones. In the 60s, there were many parents who believed in segregation. Were they right? Absolutely not. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, Stephanie. A parent came to me with a story of what is happening with
their high school daughter. For privacy reasons for both the teen and the teen's family, the parent asked I read her words. My daughter spoke about PSAs from the 1950s that are being shown in class and how she used those PSAs and her, quote, anger towards men, end of quote, as workout fuel. Is this what we want? Angry teens? Anger at men? What context is this being taught in? Where is the dialogue? Because if a teen uses something taught in school as, quote, workout fuel, I consider that a flunk, a teaching fail. Nothing being taught should engender anger. The lesson should be, quote, how far we've come, or let's find a way for us to find some middle ground. I ask each and every female board member, do you have husbands, sons, fathers, brothers? Do you agree with a curriculum that allows or fosters anger towards them? The male board members, are you okay with you, your sons, your fathers, your brothers being marginalized like this? All of you. Are you okay knowing that viewing these PSAs might be creating friction between students? That it might be predisposing teen girls to be angry at teen boys? That teen boys might be internalizing shame and embarrassment. I'm not okay with it. Not for my husband, son, father, brother, and certainly not for my teen daughter. Because you do not empower females by teaching them to be angry at males. This simply exposes and embraces the very behavior we are seeking to dismantle. It teaches that anger and hatred towards others are okay, and they're not okay. As a parent, my duty is to have a frank and open discussion with my child on her anger and where it stems from, and how to find healthy ways to make sure that she, as a human being, doesn't suffer oppression from anyone, men and women alike. You, as a school board, are responsible for educating the children, and that boosts them up and helps them to become able to productive learned members of society. That includes basic topics, math, English, science, history. And this must be done without fostering a climate of anger and hatred and bias. Kindness matters, but it matters to all and from all. And let me repeat that. Kindness matters, but it matters to all and from all. My child vocalized her feelings to me. How many other children are feeling this and not sharing these feelings with their own parents? Please don't preach about kindness and exclusivity if your curriculum is creating anger towards 50% of humanity. Do better. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Angove. I'm an elementary school teacher here in the district and have been for 5 years at middle school. I'll forever be grateful to this administration for hiring me in 2017, and it will not be forgotten. As you can tell from my voice, I was neither raised nor born here. Over the last 20 years, I've taught in a handful of schools in a smaller handful of countries. Nevertheless, New Jersey is now my home and will be for the rest of my life. Being a teacher and moving countries, let alone moving schools, does many things. One such thing is increasing the experience of different people, different children, different schools, different admin, different teachers, different parents, different methods. Getting to see what works and what doesn't is invaluable. Speaking of what works, I try to keep up with the most recent developments in educational practices. I spend a little too much time reading about literacy projects in sub-Saharan Africa, or how Swedish are teaching their students to understand numerical relationships by the age of 7. Admittedly, I have forgotten more research than I can remember, so why bother? Well, if I try to implement something in my classroom, my principal may ask why, and I should have an answer. However, there is one topic I have kind of stopped reading on a semi-regular basis. And don't get me wrong, I still read it every now and again just to make sure that they haven't changed or they haven't updated, but they haven't. the research is consistent. What is this topic? It's class size, of course. Now, there are many factors that affect our children. Outside of our control, we can't do anything about that. But class size is one of the most significant factors in our control. Now, please do not misquote me, misrepresent me, or misunderstand what I am saying. There are many examples around the world of larger class sizes having success or not seeing decline in learning. But I can assure you, all of them come with variables that we do not have in Old Bridge and are not likely to implement in the future. They might be extra teachers in the classroom or extra learning assistants. It might be specialized teachers for every subject. Most of these reduce student-teacher ratio anyway. I could go on. If I were to survey the teachers of this district and those outside or around the world, the vast majority, overwhelmingly, would list class size as the most meaningful element in student success. We experience it and we know it. I would ask you, how many of you have actually investigated the likely result of making class sizes bigger? Our own administration knows smaller class sizes is a benefit. 5 years ago in my interview, they promoted small class sizes as something they were proud of. This administration knows it, and they have experienced for a long time. Yes, as previously noted, there are factors outside of our control, our administrations and our boards and even our teachers. The stability of our community, educationally, economically, where our parents come from, what language they speak, all the training requirements of teachers set by universities or governments. I won't linger on the point that some of our rooms don't actually have space for additional students. But if we can't control those factors, we need to control the ones that we can and maximize them. At a time when our students are having to overcome almost 2 years of disrupted learning, why would you purposely hinder them? It would be a backward step for every child in the district. But given what we are currently facing, the decision borders from naive to willfully ignorant. But beyond this single issue, these are your schools. I don't get to vote here. You up on this stage were elected to make them better. You can make them or you can break them. In 10 or 20 years, most of you will be forgotten by the public. Maybe some of you will be remembered. But what people thought of you when you walked through that door will not matter. What will matter is what happens when you walk out of here. What legacy will you have? How will you be remembered? As the person who said no to any advantage our students have? To close schools or make class sizes bigger? To cut the legs out of a generation of your own kids? Or as somebody who was going to make a stand, who decided that the next 10 years are supposed to be better than the last 10, or the 10 before that, or the 10 before that? Then again, based on recent comments by the most senior member of this board, we're not looking for our children to learn. We're looking for them to survive. Let's put that on the sign entering Old Bridge. Welcome to Old Bridge. Your children, they'll survive.
Hello, ladies. Hi, Nina Jacknowitz. So I was really excited to hear that you guys were talking about a diversity and equity committee. I'd like to hear more about it. I think it'd be fabulous. I hope that instead of, I hope that the person who's chosen to lead it actually understands diversity and equity and is not just trying to be the captain of everything, every ship. However, I do want to say a few things. It's really been an emotional week. I can tell you that that we have in this school an opportunity to make change, positive change. Mr. Cittadino, thank you. Parent over here was speaking about the fact that you've helped him with his daughter. That's fabulous. I think we have more to do, a lot more to do. I know you know that. But we as a community and the school board, and I, by the way, I do agree that class size does matter. We need to figure out a few questions. How do we protect our children? What can we do in this community and on the board to actually protect our children in the classroom? because they're affected. They're affected in the school grounds, they're affected in the classroom, they're affected at the council meeting where my son was spat on by a person in the galley. By the way, an adult. But what can we do in this district to positively influence the students' behavior? Personally, I don't want that woman who spat on my son to be part of it. But that said, how do we make healthy behavior? How do we correct the children who are not behaving correctly or within reason? How do we stop people from being mean to each other? And how do we protect the victims that are happening every single day in the school district? How are you doing that? How are you making it better for these children? I'd really like to know, you know? And for the people who think that sex ed, they're trying to teach you positions in first grade, you must be on some drugs, because they're not. I know a lot of teachers, they're not interested in that. They're not interested in genderizing your children. It's all made up in your fantasy land. I was really surprised about the PSA thing, whatever. Public service announcement. I asked my son, he was like, what the heck are you guys talking about? There is no public service announcements that tell girls to beat up on harder. You guys are, I don't know.
We'll just listen to you. We'll just listen to you. All right.
All right.
Come to the microphone if you want.
Again, thank you, Teresa, Jill, everybody. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who cares to speak? Seeing no movement, I will close this portion of the meeting. And we will move on to,
Dave's going to respond.
yeah, Dave?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we all share the OBA's concern about the strategic plan and the matter of getting it rectified and having a like we did last time, a community-based plan put in place that everyone who wants to be part of the process can say that they had their hand in it and the plan represents them. And, you know, the hard thing in making a strategic plan is that the goal is consensus and not having everybody's wishes in it, because that would be an impossibility of a community of this size. But coming to a consensus on where the district needs to go is an important part of it. So when we have our meeting, we'll have a meeting and the options will be laid out on what the strategic plan can look like, what are options, and I encourage you to be part of that process because that is an important beginning. As far as the planetarium, no final decisions have been made as to the planetarium at this point. We are still in the budget process. The budget has to be formally approved in May. We will have between now and May additional retirements and so forth that will definitely impact where we are financially, and we'll continue to take a look at that, assess it, and we know the value of it. I feel bad because you left out one person. I think Mallon, Mr. Mallon, didn't he replace even Jenkins? And I don't know if his name was
Yes, his was mentioned.
but to my gentleman who addressed us in reference to his daughter and what has been done since then, as an educational matter to all board members, the HIB process is a timely and timeframe process. So while notification did go out to the parent in reference to that HIB findings prior to the last meeting, there would be no discussion on an HIB investigation beyond that unless it was unless that the family member had then disagreed with the finding, which was not the case, and appealed it to the Board of Education. What has taken place as far as suggestions from members of our community as well as the parent, we had a DEI meeting with our students, and I think that's where it has to begin. Here on this stage has to be the top down so that our students see what a district that wants to see inclusivity looks like, and it has to be from across the board. If they don't see that this board agrees with inclusivity and that when they look at themselves, they're valued. When they look at themselves in the mirror, that they count and they matter, then how do other students say, well, if the board doesn't agree, if the administration doesn't agree that you matter, why should I think that you matter? Why should I think that you deserve to be recognized as a person, as a human being? And I think the minimum we can do is recognize everyone as a human being first. So we went to our students to tell us what they're feeling, what are they experiencing. And they sat down with us and our administrative team. We had at least a 2-hour circular meeting with them where 3 students met with 6 administrators, and then they rotated through and they talked about our feelings, and we asked questions, and I learned a lot. And next on May 6th, we're inviting them in just for a small luncheon so they can talk to us more and have more detailed conversations about how to make things better. Because they recognize, and I was surprised what they said, that they feel they're in a safer place, believe it or not, now than they were a few years ago. But they also recognize there's room for them to grow as well, too. You know, as the situation in your case, you know, students of color, like in your case, are using racial terms against students of color. And that hurts just as much. The word doesn't get any better because someone who looks like you says it. There's no place anywhere in our schools for these words that are disgusting and have a long history of hate behind them. So we need to work on that as well. I know that I spoke to Ms. Burns, and she wants to attend that luncheon. If any of you other board members would like to be part of that process, to meet with the students, hear what they're saying, I invite you to be part of that process as well. Lunch is on me. I'll buy it. You come to it. Well, you'll meet with the students, hear what they say, and not just sit here and say what you think they're feeling. We've arranged with Dr. Buglioni from the New Jersey Coalition of Inclusive Education cultural anti-bias training for across the district. He's going to be coming in and meeting with us, meeting with the administration, and they're breaking it out into our teaching staff that goes out into the classroom. So those are the things that have been done since the last meeting, if I've asked the question that way. This week, all the parents received information about our health education. There has been no health lessons plans developed for next year. So anything you're reading on the internet or any place else on social media forums is like, you know, me telling you who's going to win the Stanley Cup this year. I can't tell you because it didn't happen yet. Yes, you're probably right. But the best way to be part of that process, again, I told you, to be part of that curriculum process. When we have that curriculum meeting where it's discussed, it's shared, we unpacked it, then you're part of the process. So it represents not just one person who says that my views are more important. I had a parent send me a thing that says, it seems like you're at odds from what I said last week, and if you roll the tape of what I said, then I'm at odds against students being learned about masturbation. I don't know how what I said brought that as odds. What I'm at odds against is that we take one person's opinion and we use that to formulate a plan or a curriculum for everybody. I want this curriculum to represent the families, the parents of this community. And at some point we have to come to a consensus on it. And that's what's important. And that's how a community thrives and survives. If you have more information about a PSA, I have no idea what PSA you're talking about. You can approach me after the meeting, you can send me an email, and I will look into it. Again, you can reach out to me, and we'll go from there. I think that addresses the questions and concerns. Thank you.
Any other residents? We're done, right? Okay. We're going to move on to old business.
Old and new business. Yes.
Old business? Board, anyone?
Can we discuss the committees now? Or is that new business?
I believe it's new business. We'll go through old business first.
Okay. I just wanted to say something regarding the strategic plan. I know that it's a lengthy process. I've looked at some of the models. I looked at them back in October when we started this process. We've lost, for all intents and purposes, 5 months. As one of the speakers said, come the end of June, we don't have a strategic plan. And I was wondering, is that like a bylaw? Is that a rule? Is that a law? We've never had this problem before. we're coming to the end of the strategic plan, and I'm not going to point fingers or place blame, but at the end of June, we don't have a strategic plan, and a good 6, if we're lucky, to 8 months, if we're not lucky, from now brings us to, what, February, I think, before we implement a new one. Are there any, I don't know, Mr. Parton, maybe that's a question for you, are there any ramifications to
No,
our not having a strategic plan?
A strategic plan is required. Its expiration is a, unfortunately, not infrequent event in districts. It is considered part of the evaluation of the district in the CUSAC process, which is the Department of Education evaluation of individual school districts. So it is something you do want to get in place. But if the process is underway, you will not be in violation of anything. There is no law that says you cannot have it expire.
Okay, so long
But
as we
it
get
is
the
something you
process,
should keep a handle on, yes.
so long as we get the process rolling by June, then we're good.
Yes.
Okay.
As an observation, Mrs. Kelly, the current plan was approved at the end of May, the last time we had one put in place, so it has happened before without pandemic being part of the issue. In any event, we've been in touch with the state, and we will decide which plan we want to go with. And she is aware of that. She's already expressed to me that this is happening in other districts as well.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I just wanted to know if there was any ramifications that we would suffer, you know, for letting it expire. I'm glad that it does seem to be a different tone than the long-range meeting that we had, that it seems we're all on the same page now to do a community-driven strategic plan and have meetings with the community, which is something that I was pushing for, so I'm glad that that's happening. And I want to applaud the OBEA. I saw your flyer on Facebook about inviting members to have an open discussion about where their members see the district, or where they would like to see the district go in 5 years, and I think that's a great, thank you for kickstarting this. You said committees were later, so, yep, so I will stop.
I was involved when all of my children went through Sandberg School, and they had the pleasure of using the Planetarium, which gave them a lot of insight, as Mr. Lenegro mentioned. We were lucky enough, first of all, at the time, I can't speak to the number now, there were 18 planetariums similar to ours, including the 2 that we have in the state. So we were one of the districts that was blessed with a, if you will, a wealth of planetariums. We got a $250,000 grant probably 15, 18 years ago, I don't remember exactly. And we applied for a second one to get all of the equipment within that brought up into the current usage that it is, and a refurbishing of the planetariums themselves. Now, I understand that it would be an extensive cost, and I don't know whether it would include improving the actual technical equipment, or it would be just limited to doing the other. But we've had a blessing that's been shared with kids from all over the county, I believe. I don't know what we've done recently with the county coming in with pandemic. Superintendent would have to address that. But it's not just to our benefit, it's to the benefit of many, many children in our area, this part of the state, who have used it and got the opportunity to have an opportunity that they wouldn't have had if it weren't for the 18 that are in the state, or whatever the number is now. So I'm wholly for trying to, if possible, do whatever it's done, and even if we have to postpone it for a year and go back when our financial situation could support it, or there may be grant money out. Or I would see if we can investigate potentially the use of ESSER funds for that, Mr. Mayor. We could find out if any improvements to the planetarium, since it's really used in an educational process, would be eligible to use ESSER funds to deal with it.
I will pass that on to Mrs. Calandria to let her make a determination, but I can tell you today that we received notification that the ESSER 3 application was approved in its entirety with all the programs that were included in that. But Planetarium was not.
Okay. All right. Any other old business? If not, we'll move on to new business.
Yes, Frank, about 8, 10 years ago, I believe, Brennan was the superintendent. At the time, we put about $50,000 into the planetarium. At that time, we set up, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 new programs, and we had one teacher between the two buildings, I guess. He was going back and forth. And since then, nothing has been done. And I'm on your side. I think we should do something with the planetarium because we do have 2 in our district, okay? And not too many schools do have planetariums like this. And it is a good educational process for our kids. Okay, Frank.
All right. Any other new business?
I have new business. A few parents from Grissom actually asked me to reach out and thank the cosmetology department for attending their color run. They don't get much recognition, so the Grissom school students wanted to thank the cosmetology class for their participation, so thank you. Going back to the health curriculum, I know Mrs. Cittadino addressed it, but I really don't think that a lot of parents are convinced that this new health curriculum is appropriate. Being that there's an opt-out letter that Dr. Tui sent out, I just get a sense that why would you be given an option to opt out of something if there's nothing inappropriate? So I just think it's a big elephant in the room in reference to this upcoming curriculum. I don't think a lot of people are convinced. I know there's social media, but I guess where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think that there's a lot of vague answers or responses to that. And it touches a lot of people. You can hear the emotion from a lot of parents. I think we have to be less vague. I know we talked about predicting the winner of the Stanley Cup, but this is intense, and I think parents deserve a black and white answer. And I think that opt-out letter kind of scares a lot of parents because you're asking parents to bring their kids out of a curriculum program. I never had that growing up. We participated in everything, so I'd like to see a little bit more definition behind the curriculum. I know you said it's part of the curriculum meeting, which it's important that we all attend, but I don't think a lot of parents are convinced that it's appropriate. Thank you.
Mr. Slade, I just want to correct the one thing. The opt-out has been part of the district since I've been a teacher in health. So it's not something new based upon a new curriculum. Opt-out is, I think it's over 50 years old.
It is. Mr. Cittadino, the opt-out for masks, it's not an opt-out. For the health curriculum, the opt-out was passed, the law was passed in 1968. So it has been around since most of us were in school or before, most of us. It has always been a thing. The social media on both sides on this issue has just given rise to letters like Dr. Tui's letter. So people are more aware of it, you're right, more than ever. But it is not new.
Can I just, could you clarify, it has also always been an option to approach your school and get the curriculum and observe a class, even if you don't have a special needs child, you have the right to have access to those materials, whether it's health or math or science?
Yes, the curricula of any public school district is a public document and can be accessed by any parent anytime, subject to the time it takes to make copies on paper or electronically. Yes, absolutely, Mrs. Burns.
Can we talk about the committee now? Okay. I'm going to reiterate that I believe that it's important, and like Mr. Cittadino actually added to my idea of my speech, that it starts at the top, and I think it's important that this board form a DEI committee. I think that Ms. Lisa Lent should chair it, because out of all of us sitting here, she, as a human resources person, and some of the other qualifications that she was discussing at the last board meeting, and that she also discussed in private with Mr. Turpin. I believe when we were speaking to him after the meeting, I think she's the most qualified to chair it. but I would also like a seat on that committee. So do we need to make a motion? Committees are not voted on, right? Isn't that?
Procedurally, this would not be a new standing committee of the board, but to create an ad hoc committee on any subject at any time, it can be done by the president, or it can be done by a majority of the board members. So you can make a motion to create an ad hoc committee, if you so choose.
I would like to make a motion to create an ad hoc committee for DEI, and then I guess we can address the chair and the members of the committee after the committee's formed.
I'd like to second.
Question? Would you explain for the benefit of everybody in the room what DIR stands for?
Mark?
Would you explain for the benefit of everybody in the room what DIR stands for? Give us a little more expansive description of what the process is going to be.
It's diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I'm going to hand that question over to our expert.
I am by far not an expert. I just have had hundreds of hours dealing with it and participating in committees for my profession. It's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it just covers different aspects of accepting all and everyone into different groups, and it teaches you how to be more patient and accepting and open to different cultures, people, religions, everything, sexes. Do you have any other questions?
No.
Or
I
just
just have
the
an
I?
I just have an observation. The town has changed tremendously in the last 30 years, so if there's ever a time to have this type of committee, it is now. And especially given the discussion that the father spoke before about his daughter's situation, that needs to be in place and fully behind, with the board behind any administration. But it also has to be administered and enforced consistently, so it does succeed.
And I think that's what Jill is getting at, that we as the board should create a committee and invite the public to participate in it, to hear where we can improve. I think, you know, as long as we're open to listening and to hearing the issues and addressing it and trying to fix problems, I think it could make a wonderful difference.
I agree.
Okay, so if Mr. Weber agrees, then we don't need the vote because it's going to be formed by the president.
No, I don't. I agree. We can, we'll put the ad hoc committee in place. And of course, I will be a member on it, and Mrs. Lent will be the chair.
Did you forget about me?
No, there's two other people that can be on the committee. I
Okay.
assumed you're going to be one.
Okay. Well, I
So
asked.
yes, Mrs. Kelly, the answer to your question is yes. Since Mr. Weber has agreed, there's no vote necessary.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
I encourage all the parents out there to also try to participate in these committees, especially this one in particular. I think it's very important that not only we teach the children about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but also some adults need to learn this. So I think it's important for all the adults to attend so that what the children learn in school continues at home.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It was still on the same topic. So now that we're not done with committees, but we're done with that committee. I would like to discuss the interviews, the candidate interviews for Mrs. DeCaro's replacement. We discussed at the last meeting, or I brought up at the last meeting, that I felt that these interviews should be held in public so that the public has a chance to listen to the questions and the answers that these candidates are asked. I did a little research. The policy, the policy says it can be either or, but in the event that it's conducted in executive session, the board members shall express their opinion in support of their vote. So each board member that votes needs to tell the public why they're voting for that particular individual. So the public can witness any deliberations, policy formation, and the decision-making process of the board. And I know I'm repeating myself from the last meeting. We took a vote on it, and I guess it didn't pass because there weren't enough members, and I believe Mr. Weber said that he wanted the rest of the members who could not make the last meeting to weigh in on that. I'm shuffling papers here because in addition to the policy, I also looked up the New Jersey School Boards Association best practices for filling board vacancies recommends that these interviews be done in public. I feel that we owe it to the public to be transparent. I know transparency was discussed a lot, particularly during the last election, you know, when the board was accused of not being transparent. So I don't imagine anybody sitting up here would not agree that these interviews should be done in public. And I think we're doing a vote on that.
So you're making a motion?
Yes, I'm making a motion that the interviews of the candidates for the replacement of the vacant board position be held in public.
I second that. I think if we hold public interviews to get up here in the first place, we should hold public interviews to be a replacement.
Seven.
So this is a roll call to do public interviews of the prospective board candidates.
Yes.
Correct. So Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta,
Yes.
Mr. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Sulikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber. Mr. Weber?
No.
Motion passes.
I do have a hodgepodge of business, some new, some old. I hope that's okay. I did want to mention Mr. Mazzola, and he was a big pillar of this community. He helped out with the Scepter Rocks, with the footballs and that were tossed around at the football stadium. I also was able to attend the indoor percussion parade. It was very exciting to see the kids come in on their bus, and everybody had banners, and I was very lucky enough that somebody handed me one so I could hold it. So thank you for that, whoever that was. And I did want to mention this is the end of Autism Acceptance Month. So even if you don't have small children, just check out Julia from Sesame Street. And they have a really great message going on that the theme is love, hope, and accept. And I think that's just really universal for all children. And that's it. Thank you.
I just have one item.
Well, I had a couple of things too, because I'm kind of garbled here. Old business, new business, go to the order. So, should I continue or?
Good.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Cititino. I too wanted to congratulate the band on winning silver at World Championship. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend, but I had a band parent reach out to me very early in the morning to see if I could pass the word along to anybody and everybody, and it wasn't something that we could do on social media because she wanted to keep it a surprise. So there I was laying in bed thinking, how am I going to do this? But we did have a great turnout. We had some board members, some past board members, administration was there, members. I reached out to Mrs. DeCaro on behalf of the council, and she spread the word through the rest of the council people. So again, I wanted to congratulate them. And belated happy Administrative Professionals Day. as, I know that was Wednesday, and as an administrative professional myself, I know that the world would come to a crashing halt if it wasn't for all of you. So we appreciate you. And because we won't be meeting until the very end of Teacher Appreciation Week, I wanted to get a head start and thank all of our teachers. We can't thank you enough. And we know it's been a rough year. It's been a rough several years trying to return to normal while still dealing with restrictions. And if I wasn't already certain, and make no mistake, I am certain, but if I was not already certain, this year would convince me that Old Bridge has the best teachers and staff around. So, thank you. Thank you for everything that you do every day. And now I think I'm done.
Anyone else?
I just like a few, I guess, good of the order. Again, thanking all of our administrative professionals that make a difference every day. It was a great opportunity that we had with the administrative professionals within our own building. Today was an amazing day. Today was Bring Your Child to Work Day. It's something that everybody wanted to come back without the effects of the dreaded P word, and it was great. The kids filled their schools. They were in every classroom. There was activities going on for them to, the high school had like a passport program in place where children who were coming in to be with their parents at work were brought into maybe cosmetology, and they had face painting going on. They came here into the studio, have the green screen, and made their own little movies. Just a little bit of everything going on somewhere at different schools. At Salk School, they also had the kind of a checklist going on. Mr. Cirillo was making the pizzas for the kids. Great time. It's great to have that regularity brought back into what is already a great day, and one of the few recognized excused days for a student to be absent from the state of New Jersey. I want you to take a look at a video on your own time. Dr. Hoker pointed this out to me. Kristen Johnson Trindley, she's a graduate of Cooper School, Carl Sandburg School, and Old Bridge High School, and she played soccer here. She went on to Princeton University. I was very interested in her studies. She went there and studied, if I remember correctly, Arabic Affairs, and went into the military as well after graduating from Princeton University, where she's a captain. And she's recognized in a YouTube video by Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas. She is one of his his interns, and she received a Bronze Star for her role in getting out of Afghanistan our own servicemen and women, and those people from Afghanistan who supported our mission there. And it was her job to help get them out. And there was families there who were American citizens who were there and trying to get out, and she would go into the line of fire and basically said, "They're with me," and lead them out herself. So really a powerful thing. And to say that she's from Old Bridge, to say that she came from, well, again, like I said, from Cooper School through Sandburg to the high school, is really amazing. Her mom is a guidance counselor at Miller School. Mrs. Johnson, if you know the guidance counselor there. So terrific family, terrific accomplishment, and I think that this board or the high school through the Wall of Fame at some point in the near future should be recognizing her to be a Bronze Star recipient, and we should be very proud of that.
Is it my turn? Okay. I just want to say that I'm very excited that we are creating a DEI committee and that we're going to be working hand in hand with the parents and the students of this district to make it a better environment for everyone, really. And as long as we're moving towards progress, I never want to say that we're going to get it all right and get perfection, but as long as we're moving towards progress, we're doing something. And as long as you're doing something, you know, you're moving in the right direction. Speaking about committees, I know Frank and I have been speaking on the side since our last meeting, and I am very happy that he is reconsidering the chairs of different committees and has been thinking about things And I look forward to the next meeting, him announcing some changes for the better to include and make it more equitable for everyone up here. So thank you.
Just one last point of words. Remember, the next, not the agenda session, not the budget session, the next regular meeting is not in here. It's in the auditorium because it's the highlight of our year where we recognize the Old Bridge teachers and the Old Bridge support staff professionals. So thank you very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. Mr. President.
Accept the motion to adjourn?
Callie,
And we are going into
I'll
public
second
meeting.
it.
We're going into executive session. We will not be returning, so.
Burns will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're going into executive session at 9:16.